My name is Victoria. I am 34 years old, and I serve as the Director of Organizational Systems for a leading tech firm. My role, as I see it, is to sculpt raw human potential into streamlined, efficient output, ensuring our processes are as flawless as the algorithms our developers create. I perceive the world not as a chaotic, organic mess, but as a meticulously designed machine, requiring constant calibration and optimization. I believe deeply in structure, in the wisdom of data-driven decisions, and in the inherent superiority of a well-defined theory over the often messy realities of practice. For months, an issue had been a growing thorn in my side: the pervasive use of headphones in the open plan development area. From my vantage point in my meticulously organized office, overlooking the buzzing floor below, I observed what I considered a significant breach of professional decorum and, more importantly, a direct impediment to genuine collaboration. How could ideas flow freely when every other team member was encased in their own sonic bubble? My research, a thorough review of academic papers on team dynamics and workplace communication, clearly indicated that such isolation bred silos, reduced spontaneous interaction, and ultimately hindered innovation. The developers, cloistered behind their noise-canceling fortresses, were missing the very essence of a vibrant, interconnected team. They saw it as focus. I saw it as a barrier, a selfish indulgence that prioritized individual comfort over collective progress. I drafted a comprehensive policy memo outlining the strategic advantages of an unplugged environment. It wasn't about control, I told myself, but about fostering a healthier, more communicative culture. I framed it as a progressive step towards enhanced team synergy and optimized creative flow. The policy was clear, effective immediately. Personal headphones were prohibited in all communal work areas. Company-provided headsets for scheduled video conferences would, of course, be an exception. I presented my proposal to the executive board with a confident smile, armed with statistics and theoretical frameworks, predicting an immediate uplift in demonstrable team cohesion. They nodded, impressed by my foresight. This was not a punitive measure, it was a necessary evolution. The rollout, naturally, met with some resistance. Mild, mostly. I remember Mikhail, one of our lead front-end developers, a man usually buried behind two large, black headphones, approaching my office with a cautious query. "Victoria," he began, "we really rely on our headphones for focus. The open office, it can get quite loud, you know? Especially when debugging complex code, the smallest distraction can derail an hour's work." I listened patiently, though my mind was already formulating my rebuttal. "Mikhail," I replied, my voice calm but firm, "I understand your initial concerns. However, the data overwhelmingly supports the need for an environment that encourages proactive communication. True focus, I believe, comes from mental discipline, not artificial barriers. This policy is designed to foster a more dynamic, responsive team. Think of it as an opportunity to build resilience." He mumbled something about flow states and retreated, looking unconvinced. Others shot me wary glances, their headphones now draped conspicuously around their necks or tucked away in drawers. I saw it as a necessary adjustment period, a brief discomfort before the greater good of an efficient, cohesive workforce emerged. Weeks turned into a month, then two. The initial murmurs faded, replaced by an unsettling quiet that was, paradoxically, less productive than the previous noise. The open plan area no longer hummed with focused energy. Instead, it felt subdued, punctuated by the occasional sigh or frustrated tap of a keyboard. I walked through the aisles, observing the developers. Many now wore no headphones at all, but their gazes were often unfocused, drifting. Others, I noticed, resorted to subtle, almost imperceptible forms of resistance. I saw one junior developer listening to music from his phone, hidden beneath his desk, the tinny sound barely audible but clearly a distraction to those around him. Another sat hunched over, pressing his hands against his ears when he needed to concentrate. My enhanced team synergy was proving elusive. Then the first red flags started appearing in my performance metrics. The Phoenix project, a critical deliverable for our largest client, was falling behind schedule. Initially, I dismissed it as an anomaly, perhaps acularly complex off-development. I held team meetings reiterating the importance of the project, emphasizing accountability. I even suggested new mindfulness exercises for improved focus, drawing from another batch of academic articles. Yet, the burn-down charts continued their stubborn ascent. Velocity metrics, which I meticulously tracked, plummeted by almost 80%. 80%. My carefully constructed theories were colliding head-on with an inconvenient, frustrating reality. I convened individual performance improvement sessions with team leads, pushing them to identify the bottlenecks to motivate their teams more effectively. They spoke of lack of concentration, constant interruptions, and difficulty entering deep work states, always carefully avoiding any direct mention of my policy. I dismissed their observations as anecdotal, lacking empirical rigor. Surely, they were simply struggling with adaptation. The climax arrived with a brutal swiftness. Our quarterly review with Orion Corporation, the client for the Phoenix project, was a disaster. I sat at the head of the conference table, my posture rigid, listening to Mr. Harrison, Orion CEO, deliver a chilling assessment. "Victoria," he began, his voice laced with controlled fury, "we were promised a beta release by end of Q3. We are now well into Q4 with no end in sight. Your team, once the gold standard, seems to have fallen into disarray. What exactly is going on?" I attempted to pivot, to discuss the innovative features we were still planning, to blame unforeseen technical complexities. But his gaze cut through my carefully constructed excuses. "We've lost critical market share waiting for this. We're pulling the plug, Victoria. Partnership is over." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. The silence in the room was deafening, far more impactful than any silence I had enforced in the development area. The project was dead, the client lost, and a significant portion of our annual revenue evaporated in a single, scathing indictment. I sat alone in my office long after everyone else had left, the city lights twinkling outside my window, a mocking reflection of my own shattered composure. My career, once a beacon of controlled ascent, felt suddenly precarious. The metrics didn't lie, the project had failed. My system, my theory, my carefully calculated improvement, it had all backfired spectacularly. I had wanted to foster collaboration and instead, I had choked the very oxygen from creative thought. I had sought to eliminate noise, only to create a more insidious, internal cacophony of distraction. The cost of my optimization was a lost client, a decimated project, and a team that now looked at me with a mixture of resentment and quiet, knowing resignation. I had enforced my will, sculpted the environment exactly as I had envisioned, yet the result was ruin. I had achieved ultimate control, but in doing so, I had extinguished the very spark I had aimed to ignite. The office was quiet now, truly quiet, but it was the silence of a tomb, not a thriving ecosystem. And in that chilling silence, I was utterly, profoundly alone.